The league season is finally here. Most leagues around Europe have had at least a couple of games already. The transfer window has slammed shut, so the teams are finally settled and your big money signings are ready to play their first game. How exciting. But wait, what's that coming over the hill? Why, it's the international break, here to ruin all the excitement of the club game by putting everyone's season on hold for us to all trudge through some dull friendly. San Marino versus Latvia, anyone? But international games have to be played. Without the qualifiers, there'd be no World Cup. So what do we do?
Well, we're waiting.
How do we stop international breaks being so rubbish? And why are they so rubbish in the first place? Well, that's exactly what this video is about. Let's get into it. Before we go about trying to solve international breaks, we should probably be more specific about what the problem with them actually is. And of course here, there's a caveat. There will be some of you who are absolutely devoted to the international break, for whatever reason. Perhaps you're very patriotic, perhaps you don't really care about club football, or perhaps you like knowing what formation Liechtenstein are lining up in these days. To you guys, I say, just stick with me through a bit. I have some reasons that even you might not like the international break. So here's my 4 reasons the international break is rubbish, starting with reason number 1. It breaks up the club game. International breaks are incredibly frustrating for those of us whose main allegiance is to our club. If your team is doing well, you don't want an international break to disrupt the flow. If your team is doing badly, you don't want 2 weeks wallowing in that misery. And if your team is doing average, you're desperate for a game next week to turn that into doing well. The way they nearly all occur in the early part of the season really disrupts the initial rhythm of the club game, making it difficult for teams to build up real runs of form until the November break is over. The first break is an especially frustrating one in this regard because it often comes A, after a summer of no club football when we are desperate to watch our teams again, and B, just as the transfer window shuts, or slam shuts should I say, and us fans have a real sense of what our team looks like and are curious at how good our shiny new striker actually is. Reason number 2 is that international breaks are often exceptionally boring. Sometimes the games are meaningless friendlies with all the drama of a preseason club friendly or the Club World Cup. Occasionally there are interestingly matched games like the Nations League, but ultimately this is not yet a tournament with any real interest or prestige. And in the vast majority of cases, they are quite dull qualifiers, with very little hinging on the result of the match, thanks to often severely mismatched teams that amount to one team winning 3-0 by halftime, then passing it round the back while we all fall asleep. Now, of course, this comes with a major caveat, and that is that this is a reason that international breaks are rubbish that is most apt if you are a fan of quite a good or a very good international team who doesn't really struggle to qualify for major tournaments. I accept fully that those of you who are fans of international teams for whom qualification is a real struggle, will be able to at least be invested in the international break, even if you don't quote-unquote enjoy the matches thanks to the stress you're getting. Regardless, before you get too angry at me, listen now to my third point, which I think speaks to even those of you who like international football. They are nearly useless for international managers. Think about how much, or should I say how little, time international managers actually get with their players this international break. They'd usually turn up on a Monday, or if they're far to travel, maybe even the Tuesday with a bit of jet lag. They then normally have 2 games in between Thursday and Tuesday of the next week before heading back to their clubs Wednesday, Thursday of the next week. What do you reckon that gives managers in terms of training time with a squad who aren't knackered from a game the previous day? Maybe 5 training sessions? That's basically nothing for a top manager these days. We've all doubtless heard our club team managers talk about needing time on the training pitch to get the players used to the new philosophy. But in the current international break format, international managers get basically no time before their players are shipped back to their clubs. And that's just the training. The actual matches are unhelpful too. Aside from the excellent introduction of the Nations League, international breaks are too often filled with mismatched teams playing each other. What does England gain from beating San Marino? What does Tuchel learn from that? Nothing. What does San Marino get, aside from an opportunity to be patronised by ITV's co-commentator? Nothing. So not only is the training time basically useless, often the actual matches are useless in terms of the manager learning anything or imparting any of their philosophy to their players. Therefore, if you're a massive fan of international football or an international team, the current international break is rubbish for you as well. It doesn't give managers the training time nor the match quality required to actually imprint their style on their teams. There's a reason so many of the great club game managers never become international managers, after all. The fourth and final reason international breaks are rubbish is that players don't take them seriously. How many times do we see a player pull out of a national team squad because of an injury only to be playing for their club at the next available opportunity. This technique, pioneered in the modern game by Sir Alex's Man United, is indicative of the level of esteem the players themselves seem to hold international breaks in. And this again is a reason for fans of international football to dislike the current international break structure. We want the best players not just to play in these international breaks, but to want to play in them, to like playing in the international break. And on the topic of liking things, if you're enjoying this video, please do leave a like and subscribe for more football content. We're trying to hit 1,000 subs before the November international break. Do come along for the ride. So, to recap, whatever solution we come up with has to deal with these 4 reasons the current international break is rubbish: disrupting the club game, often boring matches, bad for international managers, and the players don't take it seriously. I've got 3 possible solutions to look at, so let's jump right in. The first solution is what is actually changing from next season. That's right, the powers in charge of football are actually making a change that might be a positive one. Stunning, I know. From next season, instead of 4 international breaks, one in September, October, November and March, the September and October international breaks are getting pushed together to form one long international break at the end of September. 2 weekends worth of international break. What should we think about this? Is it a good solution? Well, looking at our 4 categories, it certainly does well in increasing international manager time with the squad. It gets them far more time with the players on the training pitch before they jet off to their club teams. Though, if we're honest, it doesn't increase it that much, and it does nothing to change the usefulness of the matches in international breaks for international managers. I suppose it does lessen the amount of breaks we have for the club season from 4 to 3, which is an improvement, but I wonder how much next season we will be grateful for one fewer break, but one much longer break after the club season is just getting started. My hunch is that people won't like such a long break at the end of September. A marginally longer international break doesn't seem to me to give players a better incentive not to pull out. Indeed, it might result in them pulling out more to enjoy a longer break from football. And finally, having a slightly longer break doesn't seem to me to make the international break less boring either. If the fixtures are dull, they're still dull, just for a slightly longer time. So overall, this solution isn't really a solution.
That is not a solution.
It makes some slight improvements in some areas, but no significant strides, and for some of our other points, it seems just as bad, if not worse, than the current international break setup. So what about a second proposal? Why don't we just snatch up all 4 international breaks and play them all together? Doing something like this would really help us on our 4 problems with international breaks. Taking 4 breaks and making them one would be superb in terms of interrupting the club season. In fact, the smart thing to do would be to have this international break before or after the club season, so it didn't interrupt the season at all. It wouldn't even be a break at all. We can just take these 4 breaks and play them either at the start or end of the season rather than throughout the season. The season itself doesn't get any longer or shorter in terms of calendar. Of these 2 options, playing the international break before or after the season, I would favour before the season, say the month of August for example, as this would mean things like qualification are sorted roughly 10 months or so before a tournament starts in that season's July. Whereas doing this massive international glut of games at the end of the season wouldn't give much time for logistics to be sorted for tournament organisers or participating teams. So in short there, solution 2 basically doesn't suffer at all with the problem of interrupting the club season. It's also obviously great for international managers. Rather than the small increase of pushing together 2 weeks as in solution 1, we're now pushing together 4 weeks, or 4 weekends, worth of international breaks.
4 none, Jeremy. 4? That's insane.
And giving it a distinct place in the footballing calendar. That's plenty of time on the training pitch, and it's so many matches that even if they aren't perfectly suited for testing things, the international manager will surely learn something from this run of matches, from the tinkering that they can now commit. I also think this long run of matches would lend itself to being less boring. We as fans would know it's a run of matches to really get to see just how good our national team actually is. And even for the big teams that normally qualify fairly easily, having that many matches in a row would make it fairly likely that you're going to see some sort of matches that actually matter. A real sense of qualification as some sort of mini August tournament, if you will, though obviously not in an actual tournament format. And finally, I think players would take something like this more seriously. A prolonged experience with the coach, the only experience throughout the whole season, playing a number of games and all before your club manager starts making demands of you. It would definitely reduce the amount of injuries players have when the international break comes cooling, if the only opportunity they had to impress their international manager was this August international break idea. So this solution looks to me to be be a really strong one. I think it's genuinely possible to actually implement, this isn't pie in the sky stuff, and really meets head on and tackles the problems with the international break at the moment that make it so rubbish. Nevertheless,
there is just one more thing.
I think it has one core problem. Remember I said earlier that this would mean that the only experience players get with their international manager is this August large international break? Well, that's true, and I think it might be a problem. First, someone might be injured in August, and thus the manager has no idea if they work for their system, if they're any good, or what sort of tactics would be good for that player in particular. Second, and relatedly, someone in the August squad might get an injury during the season, and now the manager has no real time or opportunities to trial replacements. And third, a player might announce themselves as a clearly international level player that very season. They might have their breakthrough season, but the international manager now has no chance to see how they'd work in their international system throughout the season. To combat this problem,
May I suggest a possible solution?
I propose solution 3, which basically keeps all of season 2's condensing of the international breaks and moving them to August and the massive benefits in de-rubbishing international breaks this brings. But I propose we keep the March international break as it is, and instead just condense September, October and November into a pre-club season August international break. Something like this basically keeps all the benefits of the second proposal, but gives international managers one chance during the season to see new players, replace injured players, etc, etc. Yes, keeping the March international break would retain some of the original international break problems, but I think the March break is the one people resent least.
Things could be a lot worse.
As by then we've had a nice stretch of club football and it doesn't feel like a sharp ruining of everyone's fun and expectations, like September, October and November do. So that's my proposal to stop the international break being rubbish. Do 3 weeks of back-to-back internationals in August before the season starts, but keep the March international break for international managers to assess possible injury emergency cases. A quite literal, international, break glass in case of emergency situation. Thanks for watching Theorizing Football. Let me know what you think about international breaks and my proposed solutions down in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe. It'd be great to break 1,000 subs before the November international break. Here's some other videos to watch next.